Hello, student. I am Ramos LUDOVICE, your English teacher for today. So, before we proceed to our next discussion, let me ask you first, what was our yesterday's lesson? Yes, Giselle. Okay, our yesterday's lesson was all about the elements of the short story. And what are those elements of the short story? Yes, Stephanie. Okay, character. Yes, Narisa. Yes, theme. And yes, Eloisa, setting. Okay, thank you, student. So now let's proceed to our next discussion. And our next topic will be the 5 elements of plot. So before we proceed to our discussion, let's have an activity first. So instruction. Watch the short story entitled Cinderella and write your understanding of the presented story. After watching, 3 students will be picked by spinning wheel to share their understanding of the story. Okay? Thank you, student. Now our activity ends up. So let's proceed. Okay, before I will give you the topic, the content, let me have first the objectives. So at the end of the discussion, the student should be able to identify the elements of plot by watching a short story film, relate the content or topic to real life experiences through sharing with other classmates, and build collaboration by creating a short story containing the elements of plot. Okay, now I want to ask if you have this prior knowledge. What are the elements of plot? Okay, yes. Yes, Giselle. Yes, exposition. Okay, fill me in. Yes, a rising action. Okay, very good, student. So let's learn all about the 5 elements of plot. First is the exposition. Second is the rising action. Third is the climax. Fourth is the falling action. And finally, fifth is the resolution or denouement. So let's have first. What is a plot? Okay, a plot, it is the appropriate way of an effective story writing that leads the readers orderly read the concept from beginning, middle, until the end of the particular story. So without a plot, there is no story. And we will learn this as discussion goes on. Okay, so exposition. First is the exposition. The writer introduced the characters, the settings, and background information of the specific story. So here you will present the book's introduction, where you introduce the characters, establish the setting, and introduce the interesting actions or conflict of the story. So next is the rising action. So the starting point of the conflict or problems in the story. So the rising action commonly present a multiple moment that sets your story into action. And as it progresses, you'll have to present multiple intense and interesting situations that will escalate and create tension as the story reach the climax. So next is the climax, the turning point, intense events in the story. So the climax is the very highlight part of the story and where the character are forced to play their role of making crucial decisions. And it should be exciting because it is the part of the story that the readers would look into. Next is the falling action. So the following action, the conflict is gradually being resolved. So this is where any conflicts that arose as a result of the climax can start being resolved. So you have reached the peak, which is the climax. So now is the time to point out a more satisfying conclusion or resolve the conflict in the story. So next is the resolution or denouement. So the ending point of the story where all events, conflicts were tied up and resolved. So finally, the resolution is the end of the story. So where you can tie up the final loose ends and bring your story to its happy or tragic ending. So you're finished to the plot, the parts of elements of plot. So in the activity, you have watched the story of Cinderella. So let's identify the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution or the nome of the story. So, Miss, Miss Giselle, please read it for me. Okay, thank you, Miss Giselle. So, exposition of the story Cinderella. The king of the kingdom decides it is time his son find a suitable bride. So Cinderella and her family receive an invitation for the available maidens in the house to come to a ball where the prince will select his bride in a faraway kingdom. Cinderella lived a happy life with her mother and father. So, in the exposition, the writer is able to introduce the character as well as the setting of the story. So, next is the rising action. So, in the rising action, Cinderella's fairy godmother makes it possible for her to attend the ball, but she must leave at midnight. Next is the climax. So, when the time reached 12 midnight, Cinderella ran out from the castle because she knew that it is the lasting time that the fairy godmother was given to her. And the next is the falling action. So, Mr. Charles, can you read it for me? Okay, thank you, Mr. Charles. So the following action is the Grand Duke arrives at Cinderella's house while she is locked in the attic to try on the slipper on the last of the maidens. However, she was able to escape and the Duke let her wear the shoe and it only fit to Cinderella. Okay, so now finally we are in the resolution or the nome of the story. So Cinderella and the prince got married and lived happily ever after. So the resolution of this story is it takes a happy ending, a happy emotion. So it affects the reader as well as to the also to the writer. So okay, we are done with the discussion. So let's have the application part. So, instruction. Capture one scenario you have observed in your environment. Create a short story based on the captured photo containing the elements of plot. Submit your output on Google Drive. Below is the link provided for your access. Okay? Is it clear, students? Okay, thank you. And that's all that ends up our discussion for today. Thank you for your active participation. And God bless us all.